So, welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS's YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room. So, please make sure that you read those if you have not already done so. At this time, we'll have our invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all education policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can ask you to remain standing, please. This is the board's last meeting of the 2024-25 school year. During this year, we have lost a number of students and staff. I ask you to join me now in a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. If you may now be seated. If you are not already aware, our talented design and print team has put together a slideshow remembering those that we have lost. And if you have not seen it, I encourage you to go to www.aacps.org/YouTube and view it. Thank you. And so now we're going to be moving on to the approval of our minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, do we have consensus? And we do. So we're going to be moving on to the establishment of our agenda order. That's item 2.04. Ms. Dent.
Mr. President, I move that item 7.11 through item 7.15 be renamed and that item 7.16 be deleted. The new title for each items are as follows. Item 7.11 be renamed Ratification of the Negotiated Agreement between the Board of Education and the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County, TAC, for fiscal year 2026. That item 7.12 be renamed Terms of Employment for Unit 2 employees for fiscal year 2026. That item 7.13 be renamed Ratification of the Negotiated Agreement between the Board of Education and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 1693, ASME, for fiscal year 2026. That item 7.14 be renamed Terms of Employment for Unit 4 employees for fiscal year 2026. And that item 7.15 be renamed Terms of Employment for Units 5 and 6 employees for fiscal year 2026, and that item 7.16 be deleted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do we have consensus? We do have consensus. Okay. So now I believe we're moving on to Ms. Howe.
I'm
We need to
sorry.
vote.
We need to vote on the amended
Okay.
agenda.
Okay, Ms. Howe, thank you.
Motion to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie? Aye. Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, now we can move on to item 2.05, recognition. Boy, I wonder who we're recognizing this evening. Anybody tell me? Anybody know? Dr. Bedell, you know who we're recognizing this evening?
Hafsa said Diane.
So, you know, recognitions are always very special for all of us up here. I have to tell you, this is a very special one indeed. So we're going to start with Dr. Bedell.
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate to now have completed year 3, sitting next to the student member of the school board. And I can tell you all, I've had wonderful experiences over these past 3 years of working with you all as you advocate on behalf of the 85,000 colleagues that you have. And Hafsa, I mean, you and I, we've had a lot of conversations just around the work and the aspirations, and sometimes saying, hey, there's things that you have to start now that you may not see in your 1 year, but 2 years down the line, because of what you started, it makes a difference. And I think that you've been able to really help us look at things from a different perspective. You've been very honest in that back room around how you see things, what the student experience is. And I just, look forward to the bright future that you have. I'm very proud of you and what you have accomplished. And we're going to make sure that we take care of your sisters who are coming behind you, along with this growing school district. And so on behalf of us, the administration, your colleagues here on the board, and the faculty and staff, we wanted to present you with this token of appreciation, which is a nice collage of your experiences throughout this school year that you will get to take with you. Yep.
Thank you.
And then we have one more item. and then we'll eventually take some pictures. We also will give you this to take. Right? Yep.
Yeah.
So every year, so we'll, hang that up in your, your little game room, whatever. You put it or something, okay? All right. So I think it's up to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Ms. Schauheim.
Yes. Oh, it's been such an honor working with you. I was just trying to do the math. I think 6th or 7th student member that I've worked with. The math is a little hazy. And what never ceases to amaze me is how impressed I am. Even more, not saying anything. It's not additive, but I just when I think I couldn't be at even more impressed, I am. So thank you for what you've brought to this body. Thank you for your perspective. It's been an honor working with you. I'm thrilled about what you have coming next. I can't wait to see what you do. I'm sure you'll make waves and change the world in big and small ways. As I have commonly done, I can't remember a year, maybe the first year I didn't. I organized on behalf of the board some presents. So this is from all of us. We took out the collections from all of us. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope they're useful. I can tell you, just knowing what's in there, some of the things would have been very useful today, given today's weather. So they're practical. I'm a parent too. They're practical. Enjoy. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Ms. Schauheim. So I think at this time, I would like to ask my colleagues that if you would like to make some comments, put your light on. I see, boy, it's lit up now. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Ms. Hamdawi, it really has been a privilege and an honor working with you. You have brought great maturity and thoughtfulness to our discussions. And I hope your colleagues among our students understand just how well you represented them, all of them. And that is not an easy thing to do at any age. But it is a challenge when you are a student yourself. And it has also been a great personal joy for me to work with somebody who had a similarly peripatetic childhood as my own. So I'm also thrilled with what you're going to do, particularly your interest in political philosophy. So if you happen to be stumped by, I don't know, one of, Thomas Hobbes or something, feel free to give me a call. And best of luck to you, and we will miss you, and don't be a stranger.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Ms. Dent.
My dear Hopsa, so I have to say, first of all, when you talk about maturity, I don't ever look at you and think of a student. I really consider you a peer. I've talked to you about things that just easily flow, and they're always mature, they're always well thought out, and they're very intelligent. So the board that selected you to be their student member of the board, they did not make a mistake. You've absolutely represented every student in back and in front, on the dais, in your schools, across the state. I can tell you that the day that I was at the State House and saw you as a page, I was so honored because you were leading everybody, even there at all the pages. And it was just amazing to see that this just doesn't happen in the boardroom. This happens everywhere you go. So I'm so proud of you and all that you have accomplished. And I can tell you that I'm not worried about your success. I'm worried about who's going to have to follow you each time you succeed. So good luck on everything that you do. You have really, really nothing but a bright future in front of you. And I can't wait to see you in shining lights. So congratulations on your choice. I know it was difficult for you to decide where you want to go to college at, but I like to think I had something to do with that, but just a little bit. Okay, good. But seriously, in all seriousness, congratulations. It's been an honor to work with you.
Ms. McFarland.
It has been an absolute pleasure to get to know you. You're so intelligent and wise, and you always have a great perspective. You're not afraid to say your perspective, whether or not everybody else is on the same page with you or not. And that's brave, to be able to advocate for the students in a way that sometimes the adults don't understand, because you're still in that. And I've learned from you, and I really appreciate that. I do forget that you are a student. I'm like, I cannot believe she's still a student, because you're just so poised and wise. So I know that you're going to do great things. I cannot wait to hear. You got to keep in touch with us and let us know what you're up to. And congratulations.
Ms. Pullum.
This is bittersweet. I want you all to know that I met Hafsa before she was on the board and before I had this seat. We had conversations about education from her experience living overseas and working in different districts. And I talked about my experience. And right then and there, I knew she got it on different levels. Coming onto the board, Hafsa was the one who educated me and helped me understand not just the student perspective, but the ways of the board. So she took that, she owned it, and she took me under her wing along with other board members. A few things that I want the community to know that I found particularly helpful, and I appreciated our working together, was first the budget process. When we started the process, I'd come to her, we'd have discussions. We weren't always on the same page, but it was, I'd provide my feedback, she'd provide her feedback, and we educated each other. She was always thinking about the student perspective along with the big picture. So I want that to be in your heads. Second is redistricting. Hafsa and I, our relationship has grown over the last couple of months because we recognize that District 7 is going to be the most affected in redistricting. We've put our heads together and we have been a duo in trying to figure out what's the best approach for our entire district. Please know she is at the forefront of everything. And then lastly, just her understanding and companionship and professionalism. I know sometimes she's not going to agree with me, but it's okay. Am I going to be able to pass the litmus test? I will absolutely miss you. I know you're just a phone call away, but I really want the community to know that she killed it for everyone. She was right there. Only thing that I wish was different is that they had your phone number and your email and called you just as much as I got the calls. So although I got them, she was a part of some of those decisions. So thank you, Hafsa. Our nation will be in a better place because of you. Thank you.
I'd like to interject quickly. If I open that bag and there's not a T-shirt that says "I survived redistricting," I'm not calling any of you ever. Just so we're aware. If it's not in there, you have 2 weeks until I'm gone. Just an FYI. But no, thank you all. It's been interesting, and I haven't even finished off the journey with redistricting.
Ms. McDermott.
Hafsa, there is nothing else that I can say that is going to be any different than what anybody else said, but I will miss you immensely. I will add, we've talked about her maturity. We've talked about the unique perspective she brings. We have not talked about the wonderful sense of humor and the down-to-earthness that you bring. Thank you for everything you've done for this board, and please reach out if we can do anything for you. Thanks.
Thank you. So I want to make one thing very clear. Braden, where's Braden? Braden is our new, I don't want to say replacement. He's our new SMOB. He's our new student member of the board. Braden, I have no reservations at all. You're going to do great. But for me, I did not know Hafsa. but I know her now. And I'm going to try to be very brief because it's just critical that everybody understand across this country, there are hundreds and hundreds of school systems who still refuse to allow the student board member to have the same voting privileges that the adults have. I have to tell you that I have lobbied as much as I possibly can, when I can, where I can, to make certain that every school district does, in fact, make the decision to allow a student elected by their peers to represent them. I mean, when I was teaching, I had the opportunity to be a mentor for one of the students. One of my students was, in fact, elected to be a student board member. And there's no, everybody knows that it's Terry Gilliland. Terry turned out to be one of the best student members of the board in an extremely difficult year. He also became unique because then he ended up becoming the first person that had been a student board member to come back on the board as an adult. Why is Hafsa unique? Well, so Hafsa, she has represented all of the students in a way that I don't think anyone else could have. When she came on board, I thought, boy, she has some really difficult shoes to fill. But guess what, Hafsa, you filled them extremely well. So I want to, on behalf of this board, I want to, and this school system, I want to thank you so much for everything that you have done for Anne Arundel County Public Schools and for the students of Anne Arundel County. She's the reason why every school system should have a student member of the board with full voting rights. I sincerely mean that. And so, Hafsa, I believe I also have the honor and privilege to present this trinket to you from this Board of Ed. So I will do that at this time. And then I think we need to hear from Hafsa. Hafsa.
You know, it's weird. You dedicate so much of yourself for an entire year to this thing. And you miss football games and senior events and birthday parties. I missed my sister's birthday for a board meeting once. And I was telling Miss McFarland as I walked in here, it's so surreal being on the other end of it. And I recall very distinctly coming home after, I think, the second day of my orientation, which, Braden, they were very, very long. I remember sitting on my bed and I was like, oh my God, what have I just signed up for? I think I'm crazy. I think I was crazy to do what I just did. And I had been sufficiently warned by 3, I think maybe 4 predecessors, and they're like, this is going to be so difficult, and I nearly quit, and I nearly resigned, and it's going to be so awful, and people are going to be mean to you. And I remember sitting there for a good day or 2 after I finished orientation, and I was like, okay, we'll figure it out. It'll be okay. And I was told that you can create this massive list of what you want to do, and then you get on the board, and it's completely different to what you expect. And it was. And I remember sitting with myself, and I told myself, okay, if nothing goes to plan, if everything crumbles around me and everything is in shambles and I don't get anything done and I feel like I haven't been productive, what do I want out of this? And it was very clear to me. And I said, I just don't want to have any regrets about the year that I spent here. And I am so proud to say that I will have no regrets. And I think he was hoping I wouldn't cry because we had a meeting, 2 weeks ago?
We did.
And I lost it. And then I think he got a little teary afterwards. But it's been such an incredible experience. And you get to represent people and students who don't speak English, and I speak the same language as them. You have students who are failing all of their classes, and they've never had a teacher ever speak in a way to them that is uplifting. And you get to do something for them. And every time where it's like, okay, I am running off of 3 hours of sleep and I've had 3 meetings this week and oh my God, I swear I wasn't going to do this. And I have 3 meetings this week and there was a conference last week and I'm paging this week and my teachers haven't seen me in a week and a half and one teacher is threatening to fail me, which did happen, fun fact. You kind of think to yourself, oh my God, I'm a crazy psychotic person for ever wanting to do this. But this has truly been the most rewarding experience of my life. And Brayden, I am so excited for you. But I'm gonna stop before I embarrass myself any further. But thank you all. Thank you all so much for an incredible year. I'm gonna.
Thank you, Hafsa. We're going to take a short break for some photographs. Okay, we are back. We're going to be moving on to item 3.0, public comments on agenda items, and we do not have any comments on agenda items this evening. So we'll move on to our report section, item 4.01, our CRASC report. Boy, you must be doing something right to get all of that plus.
Yeah. Good evening,
Good evening.
President Silkworth, Vice President Den, members of the board, and Dr. Riddell. My name is Jason Semenoff. I'm a rising sophomore at Chesapeake High School, and I am very grateful to serve as the CRASC Secretary of Education. On May 28th, CRASC held its officer elections at Crofton High School. We were proud to welcome 217 voting delegates from across Anne Arundel County. Delegates participated in a dynamic campaign session and had the opportunity to hear from 15 incredible candidates for 7 offices during our speech and Q&A session. Each candidate brought passion, leadership, and thoughtful ideas to the stage. It was truly inspiring to witness such commitment to student voice. All of the candidates did a phenomenal job. I'm excited to announce the results of the election. We're excited to introduce the 2025-2026 officer team. As president, we have Michelle Fidel, a rising senior at Chesapeake High School. Our vice president is Amanda Morataya, a rising senior at Chesapeake Science Point. Our secretary of legislation is Will Andrioni, a rising senior at Severna Park. Our secretary of service is Paige Williams, a rising sophomore at Severna Park High School. Our secretary of communications is Alana Lam, a rising senior at South River High School. Our middle school coordinator is Eliana Semenoff, a rising 7th grader at Chesapeake Bay Middle School. And I am honored to have been reelected for a second term as Secretary of Education. Congratulations to our new officer team. We can't wait to see what we accomplish together this year. This slide celebrates our CRASC class of 2025 graduates and their future college destinations. The class of 2025 has been truly exceptional. Your leadership, dedication, and spirit have left a lasting impact on CRASC, on me personally, and across the county. As you take this next step, we wish you nothing but success and fulfillment. No matter where life leads you, we know you will continue to shine and make a difference. Congratulations, graduates. All newly elected officers will be officially sworn in tonight following my report. We're also excited to announce that the CRASC appointed staff applications are now open. There are 25 leadership positions available for the 2025-2026 school year. If you missed the appointed staff application Q&A last week, you can find the recording on the CRASC website to help guide you through the process. Interested students can apply now, and applications close on June 30th at 8 p.m. CRASC is excited to have 3 students on the MASC appointed staff executive board for the 2025-2026 school year. Will Andrioni as the State Legislative Affairs Coordinator, Michelle Fidel as the Special Issues Director, and Sia Jane as the Student Workshop Coordinator. These students were officially confirmed and sworn in during their executive board meeting on May 17th. We are proud that CRASC continues to have a strong presence and voice within MASC to collaborate with students from across the state to advocate and inspire change. To stay up to date on CRASC happenings, you can visit aacps.org/CRASC or follow us on Instagram at CRASC_online. I want to congratulate everyone on another amazing school year. We could not have done it without all of the amazing teachers and staff. Congratulations to those retiring, especially our amazing principal at Chesapeake High School, Mr. Yor. I wish everyone a fun and safe summer break. That's all for me. See you in August.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to item 4.0 to our PTA report. Okay, we do not have a PTA report. Item 4.03, CAC. Okay, we do not have a CAC. So moving to item 4.04, our Equity Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I forgot I had to do this. Give me just a second. I do have it, I promise. Let's see.
Take your time.
Yes, so the Equity Committee met in May to finalize its structure for next year, its goals, how frequently we would meet, and its general purpose, because as I mentioned the last time I gave this report, we were feeling as though the Equity Committee needed a little bit more direction to properly utilize its potential. And so we will continue the tradition of having the SMOB serve as the chair of the Equity Committee. And the next SMOB will also join the Student Equity Advisory Team to better connect with students across the county and offer more diverse perspectives at meetings. Ms. McDermott or another Equity Committee member will begin attending Equity Advisory Council meetings. Again, that's just to broaden the scope of the information that we're able to report back to the committee and ensure that we're getting as many perspectives and stakeholders as possible. And so these two individuals, along with staff representatives and the member of the CAC, will provide regular updates to the Equity Committee during our meetings. And then once each quarter, the chair of the Equity Committee and a student representative from SEAT will present a public report to the full Board of Education, because we were feeling as though the interaction between the committee and the board could use some strengthening. And these quarterly reports will help keep the broader board informed about student equity issues and initiatives. I am really, really excited about having that SEAT representative speak to the board. We already have it with CRASC. I love student involvement, as you all know. Our meeting schedule will also change to holding one official meeting per semester. And again, those will include updates and a high-level review of budget items and policies before they're discussed by the Policy and Budget Committee, wherever feasible and realistic. And then if necessary, the chairs of the Budget or Policy Committee can ask the Equity Committee to hold deeper discussions on specific topics within those areas if it is necessary. And then we updated our committee goals to the four following: to combat hate and bias in all forms across the school system, to review policy and budget topics when requested by the policy or budget committees, offering an equity-centered perspective. 3, ensure faithful implementation of equity-related policies and regulations by providing regular feedback and oversight. And 4, fostering meaningful community engagement by encouraging input from students, families, and community members in shaping equity efforts. It has been absolutely lovely leading the Equity Committee this year. I am so excited to see what these changes will do and bring for the committee, because again, I think it's a great resource if properly utilized. But that is all for me. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Hamdawi. Now we're moving on to item 4.05, our Policy Committee report.
Yes, the policy committee met yesterday on June 17th. We discussed policy JAC, homeless students, and policy KFB, reporting crimes and delinquent acts, and looked at technical edits on a number of policies as part of the ongoing updates to ensure that the responsible offices are listed, as well as the complete legal references are added to the policies. We will see JAC come before the full board during an upcoming meeting of the board. Updates to KFB amounted to technical edits and therefore do not need to go through the 3-reader process. The committee will meet again this month for a 24-25 academic year closeout in advance of creating the policy review calendar for the 25-26 academic year. Thanks.
Thank you. Item 4.06, our Budget Committee report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The Budget Committee met on Monday, June 16th. We received an update and brief from Mr. Stansky on the budget that we will be hearing later this evening in the meeting, as returned by the County Council. We also had some discussion of the process of developing input from the board with regard to not only board priorities, but also how we will be handling amendments as we move through. And so we will continue that discussion and be reaching out to the full board for their input on those questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're now moving on to item 4.07, President's Report. Well, folks, it's been a busy couple of weeks. I think everybody would agree to that. So let's begin. On Thursday, the 22nd of May, I attended a morning session of the capstone presentations with Dr. Bedell. This was held in front of Park High School, and I have to tell you, we were mesmerized by the manner in which our young scientists presented and defended their projects. Capstone projects are a culmination of multifaceted bodies of work serving as academic and intellectual experiences for students. And as part of their projects, students gain hands-on experience to think critically and creatively and solve challenging, relevant, and authentic problems in the world around them while growing their personal and professional confidence and independence. And I just have to say congratulations to everyone that presented it was absolutely amazing. Dr. Bedell, you agree?
I agree.
Thank you. So, very quickly, I attended the Virtual Academy graduation of Vernal Park High School on May 27. On May 28th, had the honor and privilege to attend graduation ceremonies for Marley Glen School. And on May 29th, in the morning, the Stars of Ruth Eason held their graduation ceremonies at Cat North. Later on that evening, attended the graduation of Evening High School to Vernal Park High. On Friday the 30th, Dr. Tobin attended the Sea Perch competition. I'd like Dr. Tobin to say a few words about that.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yes, I had the honor to attend an event that occurs on the grounds in the Hydro Lab of the Naval Academy. Several hundred elementary students from AACPS schools throughout the county attended and received wonderful guidance and support from both Naval Academy staff and midship people. As they tried to make their sea perches work. And the enthusiasm, the joy was incredible. And watching the focus that the students had, and it was really heartwarming to see how the students at the Naval Academy put so much heart and soul into supporting these students, and that the students were allowed to use this phenomenal facility. The Hydro Lab is just in and of itself a great experience. So I was honored to be there, and I just want to thank all the incredible teachers and coordinators who put this together, and of course all the amazing students who came from throughout the county to participate in this. And I look forward to having the chance to attend again. Congratulations to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. So on Monday, the 2nd of June, high school graduations began. I was honored to attend Crofton High School, Florida Park High School. On Tuesday, the 3rd, followed by Old Mill High and Severn Run High on the 4th, all at Maryland Live. I ended this exciting week with the graduation of the Panthers of Annapolis, followed by the 100th graduating class of the Gophers of Glen Burnie High School. Now, I do have a few more comments to make, but at this point in time, I'm going to kind of halt a little bit, and we're going to move over to Dr. Bedell and his report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start with another thought about our graduation ceremonies. Mr. Silkworth has covered the graduates and those celebrations, and I'd like to just take a minute to thank the hundreds of people who make those ceremonies happen at both at Live and at the 5 other sites where smaller graduations are held the week before. It takes a lot of work to make these run smoothly, and Bridget Byron captured a lot of that with her story in the Capitol about our 14 graduations in 5 days at Live. From academics to student and systemic supports to school security to communications and so much more. There's a lot of work that people don't see that goes into making this event as great as it is. And that's in addition to keeping a school system running for all of our other schools on any given day. So I just want to say thank you to everyone involved in helping us to celebrate our graduates. I also want to thank the team at Live, which has been a great partner for us and helped us to put on these amazing ceremonies. Congratulations to our 638 Avid seniors who earned nearly $111.4 million in scholarship offers this year. That is almost a 34% jump and 28 million more than a year ago. Glen Burnie High School led the way with a record 24.5 million in scholarship offers. North County students earned another 17 million more, and Annapolis students earned 10.7 million. Congratulations to Dada Rita, who coordinates our AVID program, and to everyone else who supports it. These numbers are staggering. Now, there is one other data point I don't want to get lost here. 77% of our AVID seniors took at least one advanced placement, international baccalaureate, or early college access program course. This is what we mean by getting rid of the gatekeeper mentality as it pertains to access in these programs. This is what can happen when students are encouraged to challenge themselves. As you can see, the benefits or the return on this has paid off in huge dividends based on the amount of scholarship money that our students are able to obtain. More great news, this time at the elementary level, where Lothian Elementary's Chelsea McDonald has been named the Maryland Elementary Math Teacher of the Year by the Maryland Council of Teachers of Mathematics. Chelsea has taught all 11 of her years with AACPS at Lothian, and she's now in the running for the national award. Congratulations again to Chelsea. Our communication teams, they like to do a lot of their work behind the scenes. And honestly, I had to force this to get into this presentation today. But I just want folks to know that, there's a lot happening in our communications department. And I think sometimes the superintendent gets all of the credit. And I don't think that's fair, given the work that our folks have done. So I want to take this opportunity to make sure that they all get their proper acknowledgement tonight. Over the last few weeks, this team has won 5 major awards, national awards, starting with a Telly Award earned by Louis Nesbitt for the original television program Open for Business. If you don't know, the Telly Awards honor excellence in video and television across all platforms, including local and regional programming, such as what we have on AACPS TV. Our team has won several Tellys over the years. Right on the heels of that came the news that our communications team had won 4 national awards from the National School Public Relations Association. AACPS won an award of excellence for the Join Our Team recruitment. Okay, I see why you are laughing. All right. I was like, what are they laughing at? Yep. Okay. They're going to find a way to catch me with some food somehow. All right. But we won this award, this recruitment video that plays in local theaters prior to the start of movies and was produced by the television broadcast manager, Eric Cloyd, and video production specialist, John Francis, Taylor Thomas, and Wendell Holland. The team also won awards of merit for the Belong, Grow, Succeed logo, developed by senior design specialist Jennifer Haupt. Our Thursday Thoughts video series, produced by Eric, Taylor, and Wendell. A first day of school video from this year that captured the excitement of students and staff and was produced by Eric and John. This team does amazing work to help get our messaging out, and I am very proud of them. Thank you all. While we're talking about celebrations, we have closed out our athletic year, and I want to give the board and the community an update on how we finished up. Our spring teams brought home 7 state championships, and you can see the schools that have earned those team championships. Additionally, we had individuals in relay teams. Our student athletes captured 13 state titles in the events you see here on the screen. And this is primarily around tennis and then track and field, where there's a lot of individual sports and also some relay teams. From the fall through the spring, AACPS schools captured 20 state team titles, and our student athletes earned 22 individual or relay championships. So why is this important? Because this is another way that our kids are able to create a sense of belonging, being a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And we took a look at all of the other 24 LEAs in this state. The only state that has more than us, only district that has more than us is Montgomery County. And they have nearly double the amount of students, and we weren't that far off. So that says a lot about the quality of the programs we have and the coaching. But here's why I really wanted to share this information with you. and this is probably the most important part that I'm going to give to you. I want you to take a look at this next slide. I want you to look at this data. We had 13,486 students participate in athletics. 93% of our teams had a GPA over 3.0. 42 team and individual relay state champs, 10 national unified champion schools, and we had 907 middle school students participate both in boys and girls soccer. And this, again, when we talk about wanting to create champions for life, our kids are getting it done both on the field and off the field in the classroom. And it's just something that we all should be proud of. I'll close out my presentation with this. Our updates around where we are currently with our staffing vacancies. You can see here on the chart. And I think we posted teachers a lot sooner than we normally do. I didn't know that that was going to be up there today. But here's where we are right now with our current staffing vacancies. And as you all know, we kind of hit it hard over the next month and a half or so as we prepare to bring people back in August. This is what our numbers are looking like. And so our HR department will continue to work at it. And I want people to know this. That teacher number may look large, but it's about 100 teachers lower than when we entered into the summer, into this point last year. That's 100 lower. So that tells us a lot about the retention. I feel really good about where we are. Our HR team continues to work day and night, and you'll see that number, and hopefully some of these others come down drastically by August. Mr. President, that concludes the superintendent's report, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Whoa, he's a tough act to follow. So before I conclude my report, Ms. Pullum,
Dr. Bedell, Mr. Dickerson, you're not going to be surprised by this comment. I just want to give a special shout out to our career and technical education students who have made it past the state competition, and next week they're going to nationals. This is one program that I've had a chance to really get to learn more about, and I'm especially thankful for Mr. Jason Williams and Tamara Bauer for really giving me a deep dive on these programs. I will tell you, they are awesome. While everybody else is on summer vacation, we have Ms. Catalano and her team, Dr. Hamlin, Joe Rose, Ms. Didi. Everybody is hands on deck to make sure these students have what they need. This is an exceptional program. And for the people in our neighborhoods, I was able to meet Miss Bridget Long, and she's with the culinary program. She will cook for you. You can get your hair done with these programs. You can contact them. They will work with you, and it's awesome. So don't just look at it like, oh, that's great. There's opportunity for you to be someone that they work on with their different programs. So guys, just know we're thinking about you. We hope you do really well in nationals. It might be hot in Atlanta, but guess what? You're going to make it even hotter when you come back. Thank you. We support you. Good luck.
Awesome. Love it.
thank you, Ms. Pullum. So as I mentioned earlier, the past few weeks were filled with graduations and celebrations of the accomplishments of our Anne Arundel County students. In comments that I made to many of our graduates, I stressed the power of relationships as well as the importance and the power of gratitude. There is no doubt in my mind that this graduating class of 2025 did belong, did grow, and did succeed. The data that we have received is off the charts. One of our surrounding counties, I watched the graduation online, and one of our surrounding counties with a school of 575 students were touting the fact that this class of 575 earned $3 million in scholarships. Our avid students earned $111.4 million. It's just amazing. Our students are successful. Why? It's because of the relationships that we've all forged with one another. I would be remiss if I did not do the following. I would like to thank Dr. Bedell and his unbelievable team of professionals. And I know all of my colleagues agree. Most of you do not know what occurs behind the scenes at our graduations at Live to make our commencement exercises so incredible. The dedication and the hard work of the team here at Riva Road is extraordinary. Please know how very grateful I am, we are, and I have to stand to applaud each and every one of you. Now, remember my power of gratitude. I would like to thank our great teachers and admin in all of our schools because you have collaborated with our young people and built solid and meaningful relationships with them, which have allowed them to belong, grow, and succeed. I would also like to thank all of our support staff as well, because the support staff, you make a difference. So many people play important roles in the lives of our great students. I would also like to congratulate and thank all of the families, parents, and guardians who have given so much of themselves to help our students find the greatness within them in the classroom, and as Dr. Bedell has cited, outside of the classroom. I would be remiss if I didn't also sincerely thank our county executive and our county council for their recognition of the needs of our students and our families. They have, over the past few years, provided us with the resources, but guess what? We have provided the data to clearly show that their investment is paying huge dividends for our students. Finally, I would like to thank this Board of Education. The Board of Education of Anne Arundel County is a model. And whether you know it or not, eyes are on us. I was recently told that other counties are looking at us to find out what we are doing that has allowed us to be in such a great place at a time when others are struggling. The brick and mortar buildings do not make for great schools. Great schools are made by the stakeholders who have a common goal and the will to advocate for the needs of the students. I believe relationships do matter at all levels. And I have to tell you, I am so very grateful and thankful to be a member of this Board of Education with all of my colleagues, Dana Schauheim, Dr. Joanna Tobin, Gloria Dent, Erica McFarland, Sarah McDermott, Don Pullum, and of course, Hafsa Hadawami. Thank you so much. That does conclude the President's report. Okay, we're going to be moving on to item 5.01, Blueprint for Maryland's Future Update.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will have Dr. Pugh and Mr. Stansky. They will both come up to provide an update to the board on the school system's work towards meeting the requirements of the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. For the board's questioning information, after we get through each of the areas, we will pause to let board members ask questions and then proceed on to the next area within the presentation. So I'll pass it over to staff for our progress on where we are.
Good evening. For the record, Matt Stansky, Chief Financial Officer.
Hi, I'm Shannon Pugh. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives, and I serve as the Blueprint Implementation Coordinator for Anne Arundel County. So we are excited to come to you today to share updates on our progress on the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. And so the structure, as Dr. Bedell said, you're going to hear a lot from me, and then you'll hear from Mr. Stansky. So that's how that is going to work today. So just as a reminder, the goal of Blueprint is to eliminate opportunity gaps and ensure all students are graduate globally competitive and prepared for post-secondary education, work, and life. And Blueprint is structured so that there are 5 pillars that support that ultimate goal. So they all work together to go into that direction. I do want to take just a moment here because we do have some students and staff and families who don't always see themselves as being able to meet all the same criteria. And what I mean is we have some students who, because of certain conditions, cannot necessarily meet some of the standards and pieces that we're going to share tonight. That does not mean that we do not prepare those students for very meaningful post-secondary experiences, but I know that there is a little bit of anxiety among some of them, those stakeholders. So we just want to share that we are really dedicated to making sure that all of our students belong, grow, and succeed. So I just want to acknowledge them. So the structure for the presentation this evening is we will start with the key terms, which I do know that Mr. Mosier prepared for you, so you have a copy as we go along. And then what we will do is we will talk about the the requirements for each pillar. And so what you see on the screen relates to Pillar 1, which is early childhood education, and what are those eligibility requirements in the law. So we are on the heels of fiscal year 26. And so within that, we have a requirement to provide a seat for all Tier 1 students whose families so desire next year. And so we are making progress towards that. And then by fiscal year 32, all 3-year-old Tier 1 and Tier 2 students whose families would like them to have a seat, and then all 4-year-olds students must be offered a seat if their families want one. So we have some work to do there, but Anne Arundel County is definitely above and moving faster, we'll say, than some other counties. For information, we know that a lot of families are currently in the process of applying to our pre-K program, registering, et cetera. So on the screen, just for information, is the priority in which we register students for pre-kindergarten. So we start off with students from families earning 300% of the federal poverty level or less. Then we look at the seats that we have, and then we have our students with IEPs and English language learners from anywhere from 600%, so those Tier 2 or less. And then finally, third priority, all of the students from families earning 360% of the federal poverty level or less. And what that is a slow rollout of that Tier 2 piece. So I'm not going to go too much into this because I've shared this slide with everybody before, but we know that there is a lot of research on the return on investment of when we have high quality pre-kindergarten programs. So you can see some of the pieces that's up there. The progress that Anne Arundel County Public Schools has made over the last 4 years, you can see on the slide here. Anne Arundel County, we were able to transition almost all of our classrooms to full day pre-K, which is the requirement here. We do still have some of our school systems around the state are still not quite there, but they're on their way. But you can see that increase. And so next year, it's not on the slide though, but next year we anticipate having 2,760 seats for our 4-year-olds in our pre-K program. I want to stress that we have pre-K classrooms throughout the entire county. This really is dependent on available space because we just don't have a whole lot of classrooms that can all just be used for pre-K. So what we do is our pre-K office has a heat map, and then we work with facilities of where the demand is for pre-K and where we have the available space. But ultimately, the seats are still a lot dependent on where there is space throughout the county for that piece. But I want to stress that all students or all feeders in Anne Arundel County benefit in some way from the Blueprint funding for our pre-K. And I also want to stress that a lot of people, when we think about Tier 1, we're thinking about students that typically would qualify for free and reduced price meals. But I want to show that Blueprint is a little bit more inclusive for these opportunities. So on the screen, what you see is the thresholds for students to receive free meals, reduced meals, and then that Tier 1 income eligibility. And so what we have there for 300% of the federal poverty level, it's for a family of 4, $93,000. So that's normally a little bit higher than we think of when we think about students who would be financially eligible for programs. And I just want to stress this because there's a lot of opportunities for all families to participate in some part of Blueprint. And when we get to Tier 2 income eligible, so right now we are at 360% of the federal poverty level for a family of 4, that's $112,000. And so we're really talking about once we get to Tier 2 and then there's a Tier 3, really inclusive of all families throughout the system. And just for curiosity, when we hit that 600% of the federal poverty level, that is $187,000. And so there are pieces within the legislation that allow for a relatively small family contribution to that as we move forward, but it's primarily funded through Blueprint. So I wanted to highlight that. And also, just so you know, so the farms rate, so 70% of our students in pre-K this past year qualified for farms, but 30% did not. And just going to show a little bit more of we're benefiting more students than maybe some people might originally think. As we look at our demographics, I'm not going to go into this too much, just a wide variety of our students are in our programs. We have 19% of our students in our full day pre-K who have IEPs. And of those, we have 5 co-taught classrooms right now throughout the county. And next year, we hope to have 8. But here we have this is that, I'm sorry. Wrong slide. There we go. You have seen this slide before in various ways. We did not give the KRA this year because we have that pause, but we do have data to show that the impact that pre-K has on our students. What you see here is students who have participated in pre-kindergarten in their scores on kindergarten readiness assessment and versus those who have not. We, just so you know, we have a new assessment coming forward. So kindergarten readiness assessment did not go away. The vendor changed. And so we will start hearing next year about the Renaissance Star assessments, which will be our new KRA determination factor. So we also have a very rigorous process for our pre-K classrooms meeting what's called Excels 5, which is a pretty high level. A lot of things schools and teachers have to do in order to meet this requirement. Every school that you see on there has been designated as a Excels 5. And if you don't see a school on there, it's because they're being visited in October or they're just going through some pieces. So all of our schools are really on their way for that Excels 5. And I just want to give a shout out to Trish Sainick, who is our coordinator of early childhood education, for all the work that her office does, as well as Mrs. Batten and Ms. Catalano. So all of this work in order to support our students and our pre-K programs. Moving, did you want us to, I'm sorry, sir, did you want me to allow for questions at this point for pre-K? Or, okay. Yes. So if they have any questions about pre-K?
Dr. Tobin?
Yes, I had a quick question, and I don't know if this is something that can be answered immediately at this time, but as we, obviously I'm very happy to see a lot of pre-K in the Annapolis cluster, which is wonderful. I do know that partially because of the map of schools in Annapolis City and the way housing is set up, you have situations where transportation can be an issue for families. Is there anything on the horizon that we think either we could advocate for or we think we should be thinking about? Obviously, transporting pre-K children is a very different thing than transporting, say, a 4th grader. So it's not, I think, just putting pre-K students on the same school buses. But I just raise that not because there's necessarily an answer here tonight, but I think, as with many things with Blueprint, as it all rolls out, so to speak, these things kind of emerge. And there is a high need, obviously, which is being well met in the Annapolis area, but transportation continues to also sometimes be a barrier.
So if I can just, a little piece just to make sure everybody understands is if a student is attending pre-K at what would be their school when they were kindergartners, they can ride the bus to school. So, but it is the students who might not be attending that we have the barrier of transportation, and it has been a conversation. But to your point, transporting 4-year-olds is a little tricky. So it is definitely something that we have talked about. Mr. Stansky has, we've looked at some of the budget pieces as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Pullum?
Thank you. And can you go back to the chart where you had the allocation per school?
Per school? This?
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay. First, I want to thank you for this. This is very helpful. And so this might be a question that we need to do a deeper dive on at some point. But first, I separate from this, I want to acknowledge and thank you, because I did see that the District 7 and that Southern cluster
Mhm.
is going to get the free meals over the summer. And you have no idea how much that means. And I know it all ties together, but
Yes.
thank you. However, I would like to learn just a little bit more, because I know we have, just when you said it's seats or there's not enough room, I noticed that South River, Southern, and Crofton are in the far right of the chart. When you say first, and maybe it is a deeper dive, but is it enough room physically, or if there, I mean, so, and are there students from the, you might not know, but I'm looking at the ratio of students who have applied
Mhm.
that are eligible versus the actual room. And so I was just wondering, like, for at least for that, for District 7, if you have any insight, and of course we can come back to that if it's a deeper dive.
Yeah, I'd have to give you or get back to you on some of those pieces. We do plan on adding at least one more pre-K to Southern or
Okay.
South County area and for next year. So I'd have to get back to you on more details about
And
that.
thank you so much. I'm just trying to educate myself as much as possible. Thank you.
Anything else before I move on?
Move on.
All
Pillar two.
right. So now diving into pillar 2, which is high quality staff. So starting off, you have starting off, you do have the key terms in front of you. But let's kind of dive into some of the requirements. This is not all of the requirements for pillar 2, but the ones that we chose to highlight from this year. So part of pillar 2, number 1, was a requirement to increase teacher compensation by 10%. We had to do that by fiscal year 24. And of course we did manage that. We also have a requirement that by 2026, we would have a starting salary of $60,000, and we are very hopeful that before this meeting is over tonight, we will officially have that a year early. So we're very excited about that, which is ahead of some counties as well. And then, of course, the salary increases related to national board. And then the goal of the career ladder is to incentivize teachers to pursue and earn national board and then to take on leadership roles if they so desire. So I want to talk about why invest. So for this one, from a study of Alabama, I'm going to tell you where they get this number from in just a second. But $1 investment in national board certification for Alabama resulted in a $31.80 return on investment. And what that really is from is if you look at those dots there, the bullets, when you get to the last one, it has to do with teacher retention. And so they found that their MBCTs were 4 times more likely to stay in teaching, and they were less likely to, there's less attrition just in general. And so when you think about it, cost about $11,000 to train a new teacher. So think about that for just a second. So when they put all of that together and found that the MBCTs, at least in Alabama, as they were saying, it was certainly a good return on investment for them. And what you see there on the screen, I want to point out that this actually comes from research from the National Legislative Services. As more states are giving incentives for MBCT, they actually dived into the research. So pulled what you see there from that literature review. And then I also want to point out the third bullet on there, because when we talk about level 4 on our career ladder with our lead teachers, a study out of San Francisco showed that students of novice teachers who were mentored by MBCTs had significantly higher achievement than those who were mentored by non-MBCTs. So that is the national research. But of course, we have an amazing and phenomenal research team here. And so Dr. May Wang, who's our psychometrician, recently presented at AERA, and her topic was the impact of national board certified teachers on our students. So these are our students and our teachers. And so what she found, as you can see, the focus was the median MCAP student growth percentile. So on that ESSA house that you have seen, that's one of the features. And what she did find was there was a statistically significant difference between the growth for students who are free and reduced price meal students between those who had a teacher who was an MBCT and those who did not. So we see that trend there, and the numbers with mathematics do match the national research pretty closely with that. And then Dr. Wang found pretty similar results when we look at our students from different student groups for English language arts and mathematics. And so we will see if this holds as more of our teachers become nationally board certified, but we now have data within our system of the impact of our teachers who are nationally board certified. So absolutely kudos to our teachers for all of that hard work. So just to give you the trend here for National Board Certification. So you see the first line, initial achievers. Just remember December 2021 was in COVID and many people chose to hold off before submitting. But you see that in this past December, 125 of our educators were initial achievers. And so that made us third in Maryland. And when I shared that we were third in Maryland, you know what Dr. Bedell's question was, who was number one and who was number two? The number one was Montgomery County and number two was Howard County, which is interesting because Howard County has not had a very strong tradition of MBCT like some other counties did. But Anne Arundel County in December of 2024, we were fifth in the United States. So number one in the United States was Los Angeles Unified. And then you have a lot of school districts from Maryland who were in that top piece. And overall, if we were to count all the MBCTs in the entire history of the program, Anne Arundel County nationwide is 11th for our success of having our MBCT program. And we had a very strong program prior to Blueprint, but this has just been able to accelerate it. And you can see the total MBCTs there, and then Unit 1, who are our MBCTs at that piece. So one of the things that is part of my job is to read the fine print. So there are several pieces of fine print and Blueprint that sometimes keeps me up at night. And so I wanted to share a few of these so you can see the strategy that we're using in the next slides. So within Blueprint, we have requirements. And the first one is to place MBCT teachers equitably across the district. The next one is to avoid disproportionately placing our students with high needs with novice teachers. Then we have working time outside the classroom in low performing schools, prioritizing them. And then also the prioritizing some advances and opportunities for teachers who have experience in schools that are a variety of things, low performing community schools or have a lot of diversity. And it's important to keep this in your back of your mind and how we are addressing these pieces. So what were the strategies to move forward, but also remembering these requirements in the background? And so one of the things that we can certainly try to influence and persuade is the number of MBCTs in certain areas of the county. And so we are being very strategic and deliberate on trying to recruit and entice our MBCTs to go to schools where they are needed, so to make that piece there. We also are very much into growing our own. And so we have a lot of cohorts at certain schools, and I'll show you that in just a second, of trying to build that MBCT for them who are the teachers who are already there. We also are a little unique in Maryland is that we maximize our local flexibility with low performing school list. As you know, there are two lists that come from MSDE. The first one are the schools that we have to identify for that additional incentive. And then they give us a list of other schools that we can choose if we so desire. And since those are all hard to staff schools, we really do want to, whatever incentive we can get to take care of that. And then as we dive into the lead teacher role, we're one of only 2 counties that have started that work. But as we dive into that role, where we are having the lead teachers are in these needy schools that in the previous slide are things that we have to address anyway. But what does that look like as we go? We have had MBCT growth in every feeder. So every feeder in the county, all of our students are benefiting in some way from the effort of our energies for national board certification. But what you see up there in red, those are the schools, those are the feeders that either have a low performing school or a concentration of poverty grant or something else. And those are the ones that you can see our efforts of really putting some energy into either getting those teachers nationally board certified or getting people to go to those areas is starting to have some impact in some of our feeders. So once again, Blueprint benefiting everybody across the system. Another piece of just showing you another way of looking at how we're intensifying that support for those schools. So on this screen, Dr. Bedell talks about the good, the bad, and the ugly. But on this screen, you will see students who attend school at a Broadneck feeder. Their teacher has a 16-year average years of experience, but in Meade, it's 7. And so this is not unique here. These are patterns that are seen in education across the state, across the country. But you can see how the schools there those are our intensive efforts of getting MBCTs there, or also expanding that lead teacher role in those pieces. Whether you think that MBCT is necessarily the component or not, the fact is that MBCTs by design are just more experienced. And so if we can get them there, the students benefit from just a more experienced teacher. So I'm going to stop right there. Does anyone have any questions about Pillar 2?
Seeing no lights.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to Pillar 3, so we have our key terms there. Just to prepare you, we're going to have more tiers that don't necessarily mean the same thing as tiers did in Pillar 1. And then I will break down the CCR on the right once we get there. So more terms. So ultimately, if you look at what's on the right here, this is where we're supposed to end, right? Our students are college and career ready. But we want to acknowledge that this cannot happen without a strong foundation in elementary school. So there are lots of components of Blueprint that focus on elementary, and we just want to highlight those. We've already talked about pre-kindergarten. You know about the science of reading, the science of instruction. So that's very much a very strong priority for Dr. Bedell, Ms. Catalano, that entire division. Literacy and math plans, multi-tiered systems of support. So there's lots of things that Blueprint supports at our youngest level that ultimately is going to feed into there. And we see some similarities as well here with our middle school. Ms. Pulliam talked about CTE earlier, so that is actually, by coincidence, the return on investment that we chose to highlight here. We could have chosen to highlight AP or IB. It just gets really a lot on a screen, so we chose the CTE. This is out of a study of Oregon, and what's really special about this one is it's one of the few studies that does a longitudinal, so being able to follow students post-graduation and figure out where they end up and then their income and some of those other pieces. So this is one of the stronger ones. But $1 investment in CTE, return on investment $11. So definitely that value added. So I want to break down some terminology with college and career readiness. So we have 2 levels of college and career readiness when we talk about Blueprint. So on the left, we have foundational level. So we talk about students being college and career ready by the end of 10th grade. That means they are ready to start a pathway. Does not mean we think they are ready to graduate being college and career ready. So they have, they're ready for a pathway. So that's on that side. And we call that CCR or college and career ready. On the right, we also talk about students who have finished a pathway and they have something tangible when they leave. They have a market value asset when they leave. And unfortunately, we also call those students college and career ready. And so sometimes people get them mixed up, but just wanted to break that down for you. So as we go through that, I'm going to show you, going back a bit to elementary, just to show you the impact of some of the Blueprint programs as we move forward of how we get students college and career ready for the left side, the foundation. So Blueprint has and will continue to have until fiscal year 27 a program called Transitional Supplemental Instruction. This is funding that goes to schools and it's based upon student reading levels. So it's not, it can be in any school. And so what we have chosen to do in the last couple of years is with the funding that we have received, what we have done is currently we had as of yesterday, 51 early interventionists across the county who worked with our students who needed intensive Tier 3 intervention. And they were primarily using Orton Gillingham. So what they did is working with those students through that program, they were able to see what we're happy with is some good results. And I want to explain what's on the screen. So this is based upon our iReady results of just phonics. So we were just highlighting the growth of our students who had this intervention support by teachers funded through Blueprint for TSI, we can see that the students who had Tier 3 Orton Gillingham support is 60% growth related to where they were before they started the intervention. And then if they had Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention is a 53% growth. In full transparency, Tier 3 has more to go, ways to go, but we were very excited about these results. We are able to, with some creativity, continue many of these interventions next year because this funding source from Blueprint also went down each year. This board did request that in the budget, we were able to keep all these positions. That unfortunately was not funded. However, a lot of things were funded, but this was not, but we have been creative for next year. But I just want to keep waving this flag of this funding is not there in fiscal year 27. And this is something that, at least in my humble opinion, is something that's really effective and for a priority. So just want to highlight a little bit middle school. So we have a few things that are happening in middle school. Once again, going to that left side of foundational, college and career ready. So in middle school, I just wanted to highlight what's happening there with workforce development. So we have a partnership with workforce development. We have career coaches at our secondary schools. And one of the things that our students did in middle school was to take a career interest survey with them. I do know that somebody in Dr. Bedell's household this year took that survey as well. And I, as someone who started teaching with 7th graders, they're just quirky. And so I thought the results here were quirky for the first one. So students, as they did that survey of what they were interested in, you can see the 3 categories. Well, then they got to dive in to learn about careers, and their favorite job, video game designer, which had nothing to do with any of the 3 above. And it's just perfect middle school. They're quirky. They're kind of figuring it out. Anyway, so that just made me chuckle. So I thought I'd share it. So we're still on the left side. So for foundational CCR ready, what our students have been able to get that check mark up until now is what's on the upper left. So what's in blue? So you are either CCR foundational ready if you've passed the Algebra 1 and the English 10, or if you have that GPA combination. This past year, the Maryland State Board of Education added all these other possibilities. And you'll see the dates at the top, so 25, 26. But now think of it as a menu. So if you don't meet the criteria in the upper left, then what we do is we start looking to see if our students meet the criteria from one of the other things on the menu. So what I'm going to show you now is not the menu. This is just the either the exam or the GPA requirements that are there. And you can see in fiscal year 23, just the asterisk there is saying that the GPA was not an option then. But also remember, these are the kids who came back from COVID, and we said, hey, remember how you passed Algebra 1 online last year? Will you come to the cafeteria and take a test on a course that you're not in? And so we don't put a whole lot of credibility, shall I say, in that year's scores. But you kind of see as we move forward. And we believe that when we put in all of the different components here, what you will see moving forward is certainly a higher CCR. So we have lots of great success stories from our students with SAT and some of the other pieces, APs. I also want to introduce this concept here, not concept. So now we're moving to the right. We're moving to, I finished a pathway, right? So that's the CCR on the right. And so for the college pathway, it's AP, IB, or dual enrollment. And you can see the number of students. These are unique students. A lot of these students are taking 2, 3, 4, 5 AP exams. But the number of unique students who are taking advanced placement, you can see that increase that we have there. International Baccalaureate's a little bit different because it's a magnet, so the end, so there's a set number of students who can participate. And then when we get to dual enrollment, those are unique students by semester. So they could be the same student the second semester, but since we give this presentation either in the fall or spring, it's easier just to keep it separated out there. But you see a nice steady increase for the most part, and so we're really proud of all of those pieces. I want to introduce some competing metrics that this board's going to start hearing about. So in our strategic plan, we chose to use ESSA metrics, so the ESSA house, as we measured our strategic plan. However, there's now a metric called college and career or college pathway that's on the right. And so that is going to start being reported by the state. So you're going to hear two different things. You're going to hear where we are on the left in our strategic plan, as well as where we are on the right. And you will notice that the blueprint metrics are more rigorous. For ESSA, you take one, you pass one, you get the designation as being college ready. On the right, the blueprint metric, just for AP as the example, is I take 5 exams across at least 2 different content areas, and then I take and score 3 or above on the corresponding assessment. So just wanted to introduce some of that terminology is going to be a little different as we go forward. Wanted to highlight here all of the feeders and saying that all students in these feeders have the opportunity to take dual enrollment courses at some point in their career for different programs or in their 11th and 12th grade year. And you can see the breakdown of pretty much every feeder is benefiting from dual enrollment. And remember, this is blueprint funding paying for these courses. So everyone in the county has the opportunity to benefit from blueprint funding for dual enrollment. The same thing for students taking at least one AP class. Students, if they take the AP class and they take the exam, we are using blueprint funding to pay for that exam. So that's another opportunity for anybody in the county to benefit from blueprint funding in that piece. And then CTE completers, every feeder has a good number of CTE completers. Remember, this is the graduating class, but some of the CTE programs require fees for industry certification, et cetera. That is also being paid for through this. So we just want to keep highlighting that everyone has an opportunity to benefit in some way from Blueprint. I wanted to highlight that piece. Popular CTE completers, just in case you're interested, you can see what our students are taking as far as those completers go. I do want to highlight 2 of these on here. So we have Project Lead the Way, which currently we have we have them in 6 schools, but one school has both the biomedical and the pre-engineering. And we plan on by fiscal year 27 having that available in every high school. So that is something that Ms. Catalano and Dr. Hamlin are working very hard on because it's a very popular program. The other one I want to highlight on here is that early childhood. Because last year we had 32 students who earned their CDA. And you're like, why do I care about that? Because they can be TAs in our pre-K classrooms. And shout out to Ms. Cutchess's group this past year is her team went out to our programs for pre-K in our high schools and let them know about how you could go then come on and work for us. So hopefully growing our own. So are there any questions about Pillar 3 before I move on to resources?
Yes, Dr. Tobin.
Yeah, I sound a little like a broken record. This is great. Looking at the dual enrollment, I know that there's been work at least several high schools that I know of, I assume probably all of them, to situate some of those classes in the high school itself.
Yes,
but obviously, there's also a need at times to go to the community college. And again, some students have the capacity to do that, some don't. What are the thoughts about that currently?
So this is a priority of Dr. Hamlin and Ms. Catalano is how do we replicate? Frederick County has probably the strongest model of basically the teachers teach the dual enrollment classes in the high schools and they're, they have master's degrees in their content area and they're able to do that. So that's something that I know Dr. Hamlin is really looking at. I know he visited Frederick County of what that looks like. So that certainly is on our mind for that very reason of transportation being a barrier for some of our students.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ms. Stent.
I want to go back to the slide that talked about the 5 exams across 2.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Across 2 areas. So I understand what Blueprint metric is asking, but I don't understand why that becomes like a new Blueprint metric. If we're already doing good, if I look at the slide before that, we've increased almost 1,000 students over in 1 year, right? And so do you think that that new metric is going to decrease being able to attain that? Because I think that that's, to me, looks like it's a lot.
So the metric on the right isn't going to impact the number of students who are taking, hopefully, AP exams. So what the blueprint metric wanted to do was you completed a series of things, not just one exam or one test. And so what they had a team do was to look at different things that students could. It's not just I took some classes and I participated. I actually was able to complete something. They were looking at the AP capstone as one possibility. That has some pieces that MSDE wasn't crazy about. And so this is an additional option besides the capstone for AP. And this is going to be on the AIB and MSDE dashboards of measuring how many students in our in every LEA completed this rigorous program, whereas on the left in our scorecard for our strategic plan, we are using the ESSA metrics, which is just one. So I'm not sure if that exactly answered the question.
I understand side A
Okay.
with ESSA is just what we're measuring right now by our strategic plan. I get that portion. My question, I think you got close to it. The intent of Blueprint is to create a more rigorous than we already have,
Yes, ma'am.
right, program for the courses, IB course, we'll say IB course, right?
Mhm.
And so in doing that, I'm trying to understand what's the 5 exam metric? Like why is that, even if it's even more rigorous, like why is that a metric that we want to do? Because what we're doing is ultimately increasing the number of times the child is touched.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear me?
I did.
Okay, I'm so
I
sorry.
did.
Thank you, Dr. Toby.
So I can't necessarily answer why the state chose this particular different formula for that piece, but they wanted to show a completion of a program, not necessarily the participation in parts of it. So for example, for the IB, we have plenty of students who take 3, 4, 5 IB exams and make a 4+. They are not considered based upon what MSDE has identified as meeting that completion of a college
That's what I'm
pathway
asking.
unless they earn the IB diploma, which has some other pieces to it. So they wanted them to complete a program, not just participate in some parts of it.
Okay, that's
I'm
better.
hoping
Thank
that's
you.
close to that.
Nope, I've got it. Thank you.
Ms. Schellheim.
Yes, I want to go back to the options to meet college and career definitions for the 24, yes, that one. So is it the top left, is it one or the other, or is it both? And
Yeah.
then do you have to do one or both of the ones on the left-hand side and then also the one on the right-hand side under 11th and 12th grade? This was a little confusing to me when I was looking at it before.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So on the left, it's one or the other. So I either earn it through the GPA or I earn it through the exam piece. So I can earn it either one of those ways. So if next year we have students who at the end of 10th grade have not met one of those criteria, what we will do is then start looking at the menu. So then we will go through and go, okay, this student didn't meet those criteria, but let's look at their SAT score. They met the criteria through the SAT score, or there are pieces on there like the ASVAB. This is the first year we were able to get that data from the military. And so we are going to be able to count that. If a student scores the 50 or better on the ASVAB, they will be considered meeting that left side of college and career ready. And then there are other facets of that, but it's a menu. And so that's what that is.
Okay, and so if say you're not meeting one of the 2 ones on the upper left and instead meet something in that anytime in high school, then do you also then have to meet the one on the right under 11th and 12th?
So under 11th and 12th, the tricky thing here is that it's kind of resetting the GPA, because once a student is in 11th grade or 12th grade, mathematically, if they have a low GPA, it's really, really hard to get it up to a certain amount. So it's kind of resetting it. So we're not going to count your 9th and 10th grade GPA, but let's look at your 11th and 12th grade to see what the courses you took in 11th and 12th grade reflect. And then if you meet that standard or criteria, you get the designation.
Got it. Thank you for the clarity.
Ms. Fuller.
It's me.
I have to say, this is one of the, well, I mean, we get a lot of great information, but this is a brief that is so helpful and so informational. I just sent you an email and said, excellent. Can you go back to the slide where it talked about investment?
Yes.
Sorry, I was waiting, waiting. I was like, God, this piece was so long. So I have 3 pieces. So I want to point out, when you talk about the investment, I don't think that the community really understands what some of that means. So for example, there are some students before they graduate, they get their certification, which outside of school would cost a lot, but they're starting before they graduate making $60,000 a year. Huge investment. There are some students that are getting a certification, the Cisco certification. That's something that most businesses and government do not invest in their employees until they realize that you're really going to stay. Isn't that right, Ms. Dent? So I just want, sorry, she wasn't expecting that. But what the point I'm trying to make, and then on top of that, Ms. Catalano, I see you smiling. Some of these programs then pay for their college or additional certifications and growth right away. So when you talk about investment, that is a huge investment. And actually, they might not need to go anywhere else because they have things that other people don't have, and they don't have to worry about it. So I want to applaud you there. But I just want to make sure people are thinking, like, when you have that 1 to 11, I think that number is much higher. But that's just something I don't know, like that Cisco certification. No, that just doesn't happen. And it takes a long time to get there. So, okay. Next, the next slide you had was the slide on survey. Can you go to that one? You can just go to one of them. That one. Okay.
Yeah.
So the middle school survey, I want to touch on this, and I don't know how you address this, but I think you're starting. And what I've noticed is when I talk to high school students, when I'm going out and I'm visiting schools, we have a lot to offer, but they really don't know what that capability means. And they don't know how it's transferable. So when you say gaming, everyone smiles. But what people don't know is in defense, that's a top critical skill. So Lockheed Martin's, Northrop Grumman's, they're going out looking specifically for people who are gaming, anyone in various different industries. So I don't think, okay, gaming might be good, might not be that one. But when you talk about logistics and transportation, they don't realize that's another key skill that people pay a lot of money for, but they don't understand what it is. They think, well, I don't want to work for DHL. I don't want to work for FedEx. I think, so what I'm really getting at, I know we're doing the surveys. I'm just not sure. I think they're valuable, but how do you educate our students to know this is the realm of possibility here, the art of the possible if you take this, and then it's transferable across these industries. So that's number one. Now, how I think that you are moving in that direction, Ms. Catalano, I feel like you're staring right at me. We're right here. Is CKLA. Okay, so I think we're moving there. Oh, look, yeah, you give me a little bit of education and then I run. So I think we're getting there. One thing that I will say, I send you emails, Ms. Catalano, all the time. Well, not all the time, but often. The students in the CKLA program, they're getting experience and a window into things that they have never thought about. They're coming home, they're talking about these topics that they would have never spoken about before. I think that's one step in the right direction. But I have to tell you, I'm starting to learn more. And then when I'm talking to students, they might not really understand the value or how that particular program could really be a springboard to so many other things. I'm not sure how you address that, but you guys are the ones that are in this business. But I again, I commend you, but I do think the education piece is huge because they, and Dr. Bedell, we had this conversation earlier today. The programs that we have are great. It's how do we sell it to a student that hasn't had visibility in the world? Some have, but how we market that to a student that has never touched, saw, or seen anything but what their parents may talk about and others. So I thank you. I know there's more to go, but I just ask you to consider some of those folks, not to take any program away until we really looked at it. But thank you for the survey information. It's awesome.
Just a quick little response for that. Thank you though for highlighting those pieces. This is also where our blueprint with a partnership with workforce development is supposed to really kind of tackle that. So if we're putting career coaches in every secondary school who is having an opportunity to provide career counseling directly to students, we're still in the beginning phases of that partnership and that program, but the intent is exactly what you just said. So the blueprint intent is to actually make that connection between the schools and the businesses and those other pieces. So have a lot of possibilities there that we hope will address some of the things that you just said.
You're doing it. I'm just saying, I think sometimes they're thinking very narrow-minded, like very narrow. I want to go work for a gaming company, but they really don't know you can really make more money doing all these other things, and then you can keep building. So, but that's the easiest one. But every student knows what gaming is, but they don't know where there are other opportunities. And sometimes people come in and unless you work in that industry, they don't know. But I thank you. I love it. I just I don't, it's hard. It's a fire hose of information and it's what they grab onto and what they don't grab onto, right? So just thank you. Again, the investment piece, it's so much higher because they're walking away with something that takes years to get in college. So thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on those comments, Ms. Pulliam. I agree with you. But it is also my understanding that's part of the reason for beginning career counseling as early as middle school.
Yes, ma'am.
So that students really have that opportunity. Ninth grade is too late. So there's that chance to, and the survey is a good starting point, but I think it's just that, right? So.
And we do have lessons and programs in elementary school that do start introducing students to some careers. So just wanted to put that piece out there. All right.
Okay, no more lights.
Okay, so now we get to Pillar 4. So Pillar 4 is about investing in students who need additional supports, and so resources for students who for all students to be successful. And so there are two things we're going to focus on this evening. Relatively briefly, though, because of Mr. Stansky has another part of this presentation. So the first one is creating strong community schools, and the second one is going to be the social, emotional, and behavioral supports. And so you have some key terms to follow along. And then here's the why invest, and this goes back to some research related specifically to community schools from the Children's Aid Society and a few other ones. But for every dollar invested in a fully implemented community school, and that really is where we're getting to 5, 6, and 7 years, what we start seeing is a return on investment of about $15. And as you look at that, though, all the things that we see that benefit children and benefit families. So we have increased attendance, we have lower dropout rates, we have less likely to commit self-harm. All those things that when we really provide foundational wraparound services for students and families, we can really benefit them. So I made a little boo-boo in the fact that I submitted next year's fiscal year 26 list to design and print to put this up there. So today, here is the list for fiscal year 26. But you can see we're up to, I think, 48 schools who qualify for community schools. And so you have a map there where you can see them. Community school designation is a 3-year average of 55% farms or higher. And so that is the designation for that piece. Just a little snapshot of some of the things that they spend money on. You see a lot of wraparound social, emotional, and behavioral services up here. And also, I just want to call out that family navigator. We have a couple schools who have used that position to honestly create a Judy Center at their school, but it's just not called a Judy Center. So they have a family navigator instead of a Judy Center coordinator. So they're being very creative in their piece. And you also see that last year we had 3 schools that hired an attendance intervention technician. And we are seeing some of the best improvement in attendance in our community schools. So that efforts are certainly working. I'm not going to go over all these highlights. This board knows how passionate I am about community schools. And if I start talking, I'll just keep talking. But just know that we are just seeing amazing things happening. There was a wonderful article this week about Belgrove and all the things that are happening there. However, that article could have been written about 20 or more of our schools. So just wanted to highlight those pieces, and community schools are in very good hands with Ms. Carter and Mrs. Jackson. So I wanted to highlight that piece. Here we have mental and behavioral supports. This is something that I want to come back to my theme of everybody has an opportunity to benefit from Blueprint. And so the first thing is every single secondary school in Anne Arundel County now has an expanded substance abuse service that's funded through Blueprint. So Blueprint is paying for that in every single secondary school. A variety of things up there based upon the social, emotional, behavioral needs of children, regardless of their school, regardless of the feeder. We, of course, can always use more help in this category, so I don't want to make it sound like we have everything we possibly need, but there are funds available in Blueprint that supports this work in any school, in all of our schools that have the need for that. So I just wanted to highlight that piece. This says questions about pillars 1 through 4, but did you have any questions about pillar 4 before I turn it over to Mr. Stansky, who will, I get to be the rah-rah person, and Mr. Stansky is going to talk about budget.
Seeing no lights, wait a minute, Ms. Pullman.
Oh, yes.
I just want to comment on the mental health piece. And Husfa was with me. A few of the schools that we go to, I said, if it were Christmas, or what would be your wish list? The social workers and mental health.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for always keeping that at the forefront of everything. And more and more, they're seeing more of a need. And a lot of these students too are still coming. We still have some of this COVID students, right? So I just want to thank you, because literally, Husfa, you remember that was the one thing that they said is social workers.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Okay,
Good.
Mr. Stansky.
All right. Thank you. Tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. So I'm going to talk to you all tonight about our status around minimum school funding, or money following the student, for those who know it from that term. Just again to set the groundwork, MSD through the Blueprint legislation and General Assembly has formulas that fund schools that are wealth equalized. There are 9 different ones we'll talk through in a second. Wealth equalized meaning that there's a state component of funding, and then there's a county component of funding. So when Dr. Pugh refers to Blueprint funded, it's always good to remind folks that that is both state and county funding. That money then comes to LEAs, and then LEAs are now required to distribute those funds based on school demographics to our 125 schools in Anne Arundel County. These are the 9 formulas. I'll quickly walk through them. The target per pupil is the number of K-12 students we have in the district. Comparable wage index is funding we get for being a higher cost of living jurisdiction, so we get extra funding there. Compensatory education is the number of students qualify for free and reduced price meals K through 12. Multilingual learners, students who qualify for multilingual services K through 12. Special education are students who qualify for IEPs ages 3 through 21. Pre-kindergarten, Dr. Pugh mentioned, is tier 1, 3 and 4-year-olds. Transitional supplemental instruction, again, going away. This is for struggling learners in grades K through 5. College career readiness, number of students that we have in the district that are deemed college and career ready. And then obviously the 9th is the community school funding. So again, any school with a 3-year average of farms rate of 55% or higher is deemed a community school. So what's the work that the team has been doing this year? to start to get into compliance. We've had to take every account we have in the in the system and assign that expenditure with a revenue stream, either a blueprint funding or non-blueprint. And then we take those revenues and expenditures, and we either allocate or attribute those budgets to schools where appropriate. So how did we associate every expenditure with the revenue stream? There are two books that MSD produces. One is what we call the Maryland Financial Reporting Manual, the Teal book. And then the newer one, which is the Fiscal Reporting Guidelines, it's called the Baby Blue Book. And we use that. We're not making these terms up. That is what they're called. And then based on that guidance, we are assigning every expenditure to either a blueprint revenue stream or what we call an other state revenue stream like transportation, or a catch-all revenue budget titled other local revenue. And that work was tedious but critical to allow us to establish our baseline for this fiscal year. And so then what we then is take those budgets and kind of divide them up into three sections. First is what we call centrally budgeted and centrally expensed. So obviously things like central office are not allocable to schools, so we kept those out. But there are school-based things that are currently centrally budgeted and expensed. Think of things like maintenance or technology that we sort of pay out of centrally, but are really school-based. And so we've had to develop methodologies to push those both budgets and expenses out of the central office and into our schools. And so we've created essentially methodologies for 47 different accounts to move those items out into schools. What's not listed on here, and I think is another great example, is our CTE centers. They don't have enrollment, and so all of those expenses don't go to a school, but those are definitely school expenses. So we have to take all the expenses from CAT North and all the expenses from CAT South and distribute them amongst our all of our high schools. So that's the type of work that we've been working through here. Centrally budgeted and school expensed. So utilities, we budget centrally, but those expenses are actually hit the school level based on usage. And so we've had to move those budgets out to schools. And then last is school budgets and school expense. So those are, think of your teacher salaries or your materials of instruction. So what are the timelines we're working with from an AIB perspective? So each month, LEAs submit our data to the AIB through and MSDE through this data transfer portal. They use PowerSchool as a dashboard. So we've been doing this for about a year now. And so beginning in August of 25, we're going to have fiscal 26 school level budget information to MSDE, as well as our first expenditure report in July of 25. By October 15th, we will have our final audited fiscal 25 data, which will then obviously establish our true baseline. And then there will be a mid-year report January 1st that MSD will give to the AIB. You guys have seen this chart before, but this is again just a reminder based on Blueprint. There's a wide variety or variance of per pupil funding within a school based on the demographics of the school. So we're going to talk a little bit now what each Blueprint funding source is funding in our schools. It's important to remember that while the student type is generating the dollars, those dollars go to schools to serve the entire school. And so there may be some oddities that you're going to see that why is this funding source paying for that? It is paying for an entire school program. And so just important to keep that in mind. So we have about $284 million in the budget that you will soon hopefully adopt. That is considered what we consider non-Blueprint funding. And then we have about $1.3 billion that is considered Blueprint funding in our general fund. And so we will walk through that. So first on the non-Blueprint funding, so what are we tagging to that? We're tagging things like obviously your central office support that I mentioned, our non-public tuition for special education as being tagged there, some transportation dollars, and I say some because the rule for transportation is you can allocate those to schools, but you have to first spend what the state gives you in transportation revenue. So up to the state transportation revenue number stays in the non-Blueprint section. Anything above that moves forward. Another big ticket item here would be retiree health benefits. So the claims we pay for our retirees for health insurance. So what is foundation? The foundation amount, the $9,200 we're getting for next year, what is that paying for? You see the list here. And it probably all makes sense to you. Principals, assistant principals, transportation above the transportation revenue, support services, operations, maintenance, technology in a school. And then you're going to hear this recurring theme, what we call special education overflow. And I'll talk more about that in a second, but foundation does have to pay for special education expenses because there's not enough special education revenue to cover what we're spending. Compensatory education is covering assistant principals, teachers, and TAs. This is reduced class sizes for schools with higher concentrations of poverty. All of our student service positions are being funded out of compensatory education, and also some special education overflow. For multilingual learner funding, we're spending funding on teachers and TAs, both teachers and TAs that provide English language development services, but also reducing class sizes in schools with high concentrations of English language learners. We're putting media and media aids in with multilingual learner funding, our bilingual facilitators and family navigators, and yes, special education overflow. What does the CCR funding pay for? Dr. Pugh mentioned a lot of this tonight. Exam fees, PSAT, SAT, AP, IB, our dual enrollment with the community college, apprenticeships and internships, as well as our industry certification exams. We have a lot here. So Blueprint is for transitional supplemental instruction is paying for those interventionists that Dr. Pugh alluded to. Obviously, the Career Lander funding is paying for those national board enhancements. Our concentration of poverty funding is paying both for the personnel grant for community schools as well as wraparound services, and the comparable wage index is funding teacher salaries. Okay, so you're probably asking yourself what's going on in special education? Why are these other funding sources funding that program? And a little bit in transportation as well. So what this chart shows you for the last 3 fiscal years is the amount of revenue we get for transportation, non-public tuition, as well as special education, and what the district is outlaying in expenditures. And so if you look at the highlighted section on the right, you can see in transportation, our revenue over the last 3 years grew $4.5 million, but our expenses grew 14.4. For non-public, 3.7 to 5.8 million in expenses, and then special education, 8.2 million in new revenue to 30.3 million in new expenses. If you just look at FY24, all in, we were at 33.4 million in revenue for special education and almost $170 million in expenses. And you see that asterisk, that doesn't even include employee benefits for special education. If I were to add that to the number, that number would be closer to $200 million. So again, I think we've seen this chart before, the AIB. So again, fiscal 25 is the baseline year for compliance with minimum school funding. Then the expectation is for fiscal 26, we reduce the gap by 50% of students who attend schools that are not compliant. And then by fiscal 27, the expectation from the AIB is that all students in the district attend schools that are compliant with 5-234. There are waiver provisions for schools and districts to this requirement. You can see why the reasons for a potential waiver. The first bullet here will be ring home for us, as what you see is a significant shift in total level in school level enrollment due to things like redistricting, right? Because we are based on a prior year enrollment target, any significant shifts in enrollment would impact our ability to do this. Other significant shifts in enrollment or funding are also eligible for a waiver. The waiver process, we have to cite the specific statute, the reason for the waiver, a plan including a timeline, data supporting the waiver, evidence of public engagement. So it's a lot that goes into a waiver if we have to apply for one. So all this update to kind of get you to the point of what comes next for us and for you. So obviously we gave you this update this evening. The plan would be for me to present to you on August 20th a draft fiscal 25 of actual minimum school funding. talk about it, in the aggregate, but share school by school data with the board, as well as our fiscal 26 budget submission with the board. And then our plan moving forward, and we can certainly talk about this in the budget committee, is really to give you a monthly update on this with our monthly financial status report. The board gets a review item monthly that currently shows at a district level how we're doing fiscally. The idea here would be to also provide a supplement to that report that shows our progress in minimum school funding, so that you are constantly up to date on a monthly basis as to how we're progressing with this. And then I'm thinking of probably a more in-depth presentation on how we're doing in fiscal 26 and what it looks like for fiscal 27 at our budget workshop on January 20th. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Schauheim.
Yes. It should come as a surprise to no one that I'm going to speak on this particular pillar tonight, as this is the pillar that is caught the attention of the district that I was elected twice to serve the most, because this is the pillar that has resulted in the ballooning of class sizes in my district and the reallocation of dozens of staff from District 5 to other districts. Now, before all that happened, I was very much in support of every single pillar of the blueprint, and personally, not board member Dana Schalheim, but human being Dana Schalheim, I still am. But board member Dana Schalheim, my support for this pillar has waned quite a little bit because of what I see in terms of ballooning class sizes. So can you offer any sort of comfort to the district that I serve regarding the money following the student, and sort of put the constituents that I serve at ease a little bit regarding the class sizes that they've seen grow from under 30 to 30 to 32. I don't know where the limit is, if there's a limit. If you can help me out in that regard, would really be grateful.
Yeah, so I think the problem we're facing, not just in AACPS, but probably statewide, is the pie is not big enough. And so, yes, does Pillar 5 and its requirements force some difficult conversations around reallocation? It does. And we have done some of that with our revised staffing formula that we implemented this year. What I can assure you, or what I can commit, is like our administration does not want to see class sizes at 30. We know we have some, but that's a combination of funding and this requirement. Why you're probably hearing some hesitation from me is, without going into specifics, when we talk again in August, the schools that are going to pop up that are at risk of being in compliance are not our low poverty schools. There are high poverty schools. And we're going to have to, as a community, figure out how to address these without further exacerbating the problems that you have just described.
Okay. What I worry about is, we know, and we've said it several times tonight, that like the blueprint is supposed to support all students. My fear is that the outcomes for students, because I don't think the blueprint intended this, right? I don't think anyone set out to have a blueprint that takes from one set of schools and gives to another set of schools. I think the intent of blueprint, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong or not seeing this in the right way, was to elevate all schools. And in my mind, when I was advocating, when I was going to rallies, when I was doing all the things I do in my spare time and fighting for the passage of blueprint, I don't think that blueprint really thought that, or the idea of blueprint would be to take from one to give to another, because what I worry about is outcomes, student outcomes. Mm-hmm. And when you have class sizes that it was a rarity that it was a class size was above 30 in 4th and 5th grade, and now it's becoming more and more commonplace. And what I'm seeing in response to multiple constituent concerns recently is that no, the class size is going to be 32 now. I mean, my constituents' minds are exploding, and I can't defend that decision either. I mean, I can't,
So,
not as a human being or elected official.
Yeah, I'll just say, if we look at the total number of class sizes over 30, we're lower than we were last year, and we're lower than so obviously we're not where we want to be. I don't disagree with you that the intent of Blueprint of lifting all schools. I think some of the issue is where, there is a very prescriptive formula for all schools in the state of Maryland. And that is very difficult to manage and comply with, because there are so many, just in AACPS, there are so many unique schools and unique situations. The small school, large school, high concentrations of poverty, low concentrations of poverty, that just all have they all have unique needs, that probably when, the Kerwin Commission recommended this formula back in 2018 and the bill was passed in 2020, a lot has obviously changed.
Absolutely.
But I will say, Ms. Scholheim, in someone who sat through those discussions of the Kerwin Commission, there were many of discussion of the opposite current happening at the time, which is funding that was designed to go to high poverty schools were not going to high poverty schools. They were going to low poverty schools. And so the intent of money following the student or minimum school funding was to sort of correct that. I do think, again, in my humble opinion, I think this is more of the pie is just not big enough. And so, but the pie is what it is. And so we have to obviously do our job to advocate to try to make the pie bigger. But we also have to, I don't want to speak for Dr. Bedell, he'll come in, but like our number one when we design allocation strategies for schools is to meet the needs of all students. The compliance part of this comes secondary. We got to do it. And so he's tasked me with doing that. But
you do a wonderful
yeah,
job, and I'm not.
I know.
Yeah.
But number one is for Dr. Bedell, design a strategy that meets the needs of students. And then we can look to Blueprint and try to work through what we have to work through to get into compliance.
So then I have one ask and then one comment. So my ask is that, like you've been doing, like we do for all students, like monitor the outcomes, do some comparative analysis now that, given what we have here, for all students for outcomes and how Blueprint might be affecting positively in a lot of cases, but maybe potentially negatively or neutrally in others. That would be my ask. And I know we do this, we look at data all the time. And the second thing is a comment, and this is to the Maryland General Assembly. How on earth did y'all think that the foundation level would be good enough, right? It is almost offensive how low they have made the foundation level. I realize we had a budget problem in the state. I'm not going to opine on why that happened or didn't happen or what. I'm not going to opine on that. What I am going to say is that it is not good enough to have that foundation level as low as it is. And clearly it's not good enough of what we're allocating to students who receive special education services based on the slides we just saw. So if anyone watches our meetings, I hope that they hear me on that. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Let me answer your question on looking at data. So we have started looking at data. Last year was our first year where we had to do some staffing moves that created a level of controversy. And it's preliminary data right now. But the one school in your district that was pretty highly impacted by the staffing, the data is showing that that school is still outperforming district averages based on what I'm seeing early on. Now, There's more that I need to unpack because it's very early preliminary data. I need to look at class size and all of those things. You said, what is it that you can say to your people who are, raising these questions about class size? They have to wait just like the people had to wait last year. Simple. We said there is a set number that we're looking at. If a class goes over that threshold, we will come back and we will take a look at an additional teacher if there is holdback available. That was the process last year. That's going to be the process this year. But as data comes in, I'm going to be taking a look at any of our schools where we had a heavy dosage of students to teacher ratio to then make an assessment on, is harm really being done to these students or not, based on what the results are saying. We said this previously. I don't want a single class over 30. Been very adamant about that and very vocal about that since I got here with the community. But just like all of these other school districts, this is a law. It is a mandate. And it is doing what it was basically designed to do. That many people supported before I got here. It was by design that money was going to follow a kid in order to create more of a level playing field. It is doing what it was intended to do. And our hands are kind of tied on this. I know people want to get some legislative changes. That's the only way that this is going to happen. Lobby to AIB, lobby to the legislators to make the amendments, but it is doing what it was intended to do. I don't think that it was not intended, because if it was intended to not impact money going to schools where the kids needed it more, then they would have funded us a lot more money to make sure that we keep every school whole. And it's not fiscally possible for them to be able to fund doing what I agree with you on. Should be that we shouldn't be having harm in terms of student teacher ratio at our schools in your district and other districts that are similar like yours across the state. But that was not the design of this law.
Dr. Turbin.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to this, and I agree with all that's been said. And to your point, Mr. Stansky, about the pie's not big enough, I think there's another issue that Blueprint points up. And yes, Blueprint was intended to force the money that exists to go where the highest need is. The money that exists is not sufficient. It hasn't ever been for public education, and this shows it, right? This shows it. But here's the other problem. I have schools in my district with 98% farms? Mm-hmm. And we have schools with 6% farms. And that's a problem, because the concentration of poverty is a concentration. And therefore, you end up with a whole lot of money going to a school where the need is genuinely high. But I would imagine there's a point of diminishing returns. There's a point where you've sort of got enough staff or whatever. And that's on all of us, whoever makes the decisions about where housing goes, what kind of housing it is, where people live, who goes to public schools, who doesn't go to public schools, and you end up with this kind of imbalance. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That's unhealthy for a society. It just is. And we're seeing it. This legislation has provided a way to see in real terms the harm that does in so many ways. And so I think the foundation amount is not sufficient. We understand that. And I think, as we advocate, we have to make the case that no school system should be, let me back up, just as Blueprint and the Kerwin Commission conversations were intended to check some less than beneficial processes in many school districts whereby the people who sort of screamed loudest got the money kind of thing, which tended to be the highly resourced areas. That should be checked, but neither should we, those of us who are either in a governing capacity on this board or the professionals who execute all of this, neither should we be put in a position where we are doing what we know is not good practice for children. And so, I hope that's part of the advocacy that will continue here. But meanwhile, we need to be cognizant of the underlying social structures that are at the root, in my opinion, of a huge number of the issues that we have in our schools. And I hope we, along with the legislature and any others, can find a way to work through that. So, thank you.
Okay, seeing no more lights, I would like to thank the two of you. Great presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to be moving on to some consent items, award of contracts. Do I hear a motion to bundle?
Motion to bundle consent item 6.01 to 6.17.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to bundle and a second. We have consensus?
Yes.
Okay. So Dr. Bedell. We're at consent items. We've bundled items 6.01 to 6.17, awarding of contracts.
All right. Mr. President, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of the contracts under the consent items 6.01 through 6.17.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Okay, I hear a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, we're moving on to action items. Item 7.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Superintendent recommends that the board take action on the approval of the administrative personnel appointments as discussed in executive close.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, item 7.02, our personnel. Dr. Bedell.
Mr. President, superintendent recommends that the board approve the actions as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.03, sabbatical leave. Dr. Bedell.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends that the sabbatical leave request be approved by this board.
So moved.
Second.
Do you have any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, item 7.04, reappointment of school board ethics panel member. Dr.
That's ours. It's not.
No,
his.
that's actually for us. Do we have a motion?
I move to reappoint the school board ethics panel member.
So moved.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.05, our Mayo Elementary School third-party project, permanent shade structure. Dr. Vidal.
Thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends approval of the Mayo Elementary School third-party project, permanent shade structure.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Dr. Tobin.
Yes, I just wanted to make a quick comment. First of all, congratulations to the Mayo PTO for doing this. As anybody who's read the contract, it's $49,000. The reason I mention this is I know at least one school in my district that has sought to figure out a way to have a shade structure because the playground is out in the open, there is no shade, and teachers literally have put signs on the playground equipment that when it's hot outside, the children are not allowed to play on the equipment during the school day because they can burn themselves. And there's been conversation, all sorts of attempts to figure out whether trees can be planted, there are geothermal fields, there's lots of other issues. And the reason I raise this is I fully appreciate why there's a requirement that this shade structure be very substantial because it needs to withstand weather. It can't be something we have to take up and put down, maintain, and so forth. So I fully understand why we require that. There's safety and a lot of other things. But I want to point out for anybody who's listening, this is a huge equity issue. This is, do you have a PTA that can raise $49,000? We have a lot of schools that don't, and we have some schools that don't even have a PTA. And so I just want to point out, when we were talking about funding earlier, when you have a situation that's when it's warm out, kids literally can't play, and all the information tells us it's going to continue to get hotter, we're going to have a problem. And I just want to put that out there so the public is aware, so we are aware. Again, my congratulations to the Mayo Elementary PTO. I think it's incredibly commendable that the work went into that. I in no way mean to dismiss that. I just want everybody to understand we now have a situation where literally some kids get to play on their playground equipment and some don't. And it's a matter of money and who has it. So thank you for allowing me to make those comments.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
and Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.06, Goshen Farm Parcel 4243, Forest Conservation Easement. Dr. Bedell.
The superintendent recommends approval of the Goshen Farm and Camp St. Clair Elementary School Forest Conservation Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.07, Carver EEC Design Development. Dr. Bedell.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends approval of the Carver Early Education Center Design Development.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdowie,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
and Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.08, 2025 Educational Facilities Master Plan.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends approval of the 2025 Educational Facilities Master Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Dr. Tobin.
Yes, thank you. Me again. I just had a quick question about this. Maybe Mr. Roof or somebody. Thank you so much. I wanted to, first of all, there's a wealth of information in this plan. Thank you for all the work that went into it. I urge people in the public who are listening to please take a look at this because I think it has vast amounts of information that people who are interested in our schools would benefit from. But I wanted to ask a question about something on page 63, which is the information. This is in the area of the Annapolis cluster, and it is referencing statistical data from the 2020 census. And it gives the population of the feeder area, 74,403, and a couple of, a number in public schools, 11,073, pre-K through 12. And then it says percent in public schools, 19.4%. Am I correct in understanding that that is 19.4% of the people who could go to public schools in the area?
We'd have to, I don't have that information
Okay.
offhand.
My apologies. And if you can get that to
Yep.
me later, I just want to clarify what that number is, because if it's what I think it is, it's a reminder that we have an area where very few in the population go to the public schools, which is connected to some of the things I raised in my earlier comments about Blueprint, which is that in the Annapolis cluster, we have a very strange map of where our schools are relative to our housing. And we also have a history of flight from the public schools. But that number just really jumped out at me. So I'd be grateful at some point and I'm sorry I didn't get
No.
that question to you earlier. It
We
was
can-
just as I was
can
going
definitely
through
get
it
that to you.
today.
Yep.
So thank you.
Okay, seeing no more lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schulheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
and Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, we're moving to item 7.09, our fiscal year 2026 operating budget adoption.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Mr. President. The superintendent recommends approval of the Board of Education FY 2026 operating budget as approved by the county council.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Ms. Schauheim.
Yes. I first want to say thank you to our funding authorities, the county council, and then previous to that, to our county executive. And while I know they keep saying it's a historic amount of money, and it is, it's because our enrollment keeps going higher. So it'll be a historic level of funding so long as our enrollment continues to increase. I do want to say that the board's budget is always the board's budget. There isn't two versions of the budget. There isn't the superintendent's version and then the board's version, and one is considered weighted higher than the other. And it's remarkable that I have to say this sort of, I think this is my seventh time doing this, or seventh time. It's remarkable that I still have to say this, because in this budget cycle in particular, it was said no fewer than 3 times by various other elected officials, and one of those two bodies or both. Well, was it in the superintendent's budget or the board's budget? And I'm like, well, however do you mean? It's the board's budget. And I just ask that our dear funding authorities, firstly, my gratitude, but secondly, we're also elected. This is one of our key missions every year, a very, very, very important one, I might add. And to see it for what it is, and that is the board's budget. I have other thoughts and feelings about various things that were funded or not funded, and how it relates to equity, especially in terms of extracurricular, co-curricular, the arts, which I will continue to lobby for, both as part of our ongoing board priorities that we establish every year, and otherwise. So yeah, those are my thoughts right now. And I'm holding back. I'm biting my tongue, as you can tell.
Ms. Stent.
I just want to say publicly, thank you all for all the work that you've done. I know that the relationship with the county is exceptional, which is why you're able to get through these things that you do. But I know that board members may not ever get to say thank you. So I'm going to say thank you to each and every last one of you. I know that you've abdicated over and over again to not only get this budget passed, but abdicated for the students here in our county. And I know that that is our job, but it's different when you get resistance at every corner. And you are doing thankless work every single day. But this budget, to Ms. Shawhine's point, is one of the most important things that we'll do. It keeps happy faces. I know it's 9 o'clock at night. You don't look very happy right now. But every time you can see a COLA increase, it's a happy face. And we know that without this funding, that's not possible. So I appreciate each and every one of you on the dais for not only advocating for it, but to continue. And Dr. Bedell, to you and your staff, I know that we make it very contentious when we're going through this, but the work that's put in, this is the result of it. Not only do we get things approved, but there are some areas that we know that needs to be improved. And I think that those areas that abdication start right now. We've got to make sure that between now and next year, that we not only advocate for the budget, but that we advocate for the needs. I don't really worry about whether they approve everything, but I do encourage us to continue to ask for everything that we need. So I just want to publicly thank each and every last one of you, and kudos to the staff for a great job.
Dr. Bedell?
Yeah, I know this is a different budgeting process than what I've experienced in my 6 years as a superintendent before coming here. And it's tough to hear Ms. Schauheim, express the way that you feel about how people try to term whose budget it is. The word "my" has never come out of my mouth. I own nothing here. And no, I want you to follow me. It's nothing for you to come back on. Whatever this mindset is that exists in this county, I'm not interested in being a part of that. This is them, us. It's about who got more power, the board, the county executive, the county council. I don't care. This budget belongs to AACPS. I've gone on record from day one saying these schools don't belong to me. They don't belong to educators. They belong to this community. That is the same way that I've always approached the budget, with hopes of making sure that everything that this board wants to see happen in it, get in it. And so I don't want like that talk, because it ultimately festers division that I don't think we need. That's not created by us in here, that it's a superintendent budget versus a school board budget. You're absolutely right. The budget is yours. It belongs to you all. It's one of your 4 major responsibilities as a school board. So I just want to make sure I'm putting on the record that narrative has not been created by me or anybody on our leadership team. I don't know where that came from.
Ms. Schauheim.
I wasn't talking about you. I just want to make that very clear. I wasn't talking about you. No, but because I feel like I'm being misunderstood, so I just want to say this. I wasn't talking about you. I wasn't talking about anyone in this room, nor anyone employed with AACPS. That is not where I heard it. And so I'll say it again. The various groups of people or individuals that get our budget after we approve it in February is where I continue to hear this from. I don't think it serves anyone. And I don't think that one group of individuals who are elected and whose major function it is to approve a budget, it's not helpful in any way for other folks that see that budget after we do in February to then value what is going to get funded based on what version of the budget it was first put into. That's what I was trying to say. So I just don't want to be misunderstood. I was not ever talking about you. Thank you.
So before we take a vote on this, I just want to make one comment or two. I've been around a long time, advocated for a lot of budgets. There were times some years ago before I was on the board when our students had great amount of needs, but they were not met. Why? It's because the folks were not advocating for the needs of our students. Since I've been on the board, with this board, Dr. Bedell, we advocate for what we feel are the needs of our students. And I will tell you that in meetings with some folks in some of our funding source, that's one of the first things that comes out of my mouth. I say, my role as a member of the board is to advocate for the needs of our students. This is a budget for our students. And I'm not the funding source. Now, I have to say that as a result of this board and Dr. Bedell, particularly the relationships that exist between the funding source stakeholders and the stakeholders in this school system is absolutely phenomenal. The amount of money that we have been able to receive from our funding source over the past 3-4 years has been off the charts. And this year, it is a record. Now, it's a record. However, when we advocated, we did advocate for a good bit more because that's what the needs are. However, we are absolutely grateful for what we have received from county executive, from the county council, for our kids. We are in I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. We are in a very, very good position compared to so many of the other LEAs in the state of Maryland. And we should all be proud of that because we've been able to do that for our kids. And so, having said that, I also would like to echo my colleagues who thank Dr. Bedell, the staff, county executive, all of the county council folks, and anyone else who had any role in advocating for the needs of our kids. And as I said earlier, we've made it clear by the data that's been presented that the investment that our county has been making in our students is paying great dividends, and it's going to continue to do that. Do we still have needs? Absolutely. Will we continue to advocate for those needs? Absolutely. But let's be proud of what we have at this point in time. So, having said that, I think we're ready for a vote. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schalheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item 7.1, fiscal year 2026 capital budget adoption. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Superintendent recommends that the Board of Education adopt the County Council approved FY 2026 capital budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schalheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland?
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, 7.11, Unit 1, Terms of Employment, Ratification of the Negotiated Agreement. Ms. Rawls.
Thank you. Before you, I know you're going to come up and take us through this briefly. I do want to go ahead and give the recommendation. This first one, the superintendent recommends approval of the tentative agreement between the Board of Education and the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County, TAC.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. I'm not seeing any lights. Any comments?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Melissa Rawls, the Executive Director of Employee Relations and Leadership Advancement for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. The negotiating teams for the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County and the Board of Education of Anne Arundel County have reached a tentative agreement for fiscal year 2026 pending your approval. Key highlights of this agreement include, but are not limited to, the following: a step increase for eligible Unit 1 employees, a 3% cost of living adjustment for all Unit 1 employees, modifications to the AACPS career ladder, continuation of the telework pilot for 12-month employees, implementation of a 4-day work week from June 25th, 2025 through August 5th, 2025, and a new provision outlining staff expectations related to student interactions. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to President Christina Corona and the entire TAC negotiating team for their thoughtful collaboration and steadfast commitment to advocating for Unit 1 employees throughout the FY26 negotiations. I especially want to recognize Executive Director Scott Soares for his strong leadership and unwavering dedication to this process. The collective efforts of the TAC team were instrumental in reaching an agreement that not only supports the success of our students, but also reflects our shared commitment to the well-being and professional growth of AACPS Unit 1 employees. On June 16th, 2025, TAC ratified this agreement, and I respectfully request your approval and ratification of the noted summary of changes.
Thank you, Ms. Rawls. So we do have a motion and a second. Seeing no lights. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
and Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, item 7.12, Unit 2, Terms of Employment, Ratification of Negotiating Agreement.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends approval of the terms of employment for Unit 2 employees.
Ms. Rawls.
Yes. The negotiating teams for the Board of Education and the Association of Educational Leaders have not reached an agreement for fiscal year 2026. For this reason, I respectfully request that the following terms of employment be established for Unit 2 employees. These terms will continue in effect until a successor agreement is approved and ratified. No step equivalent or COLA for Unit 2 employees. The 4-day work week will occur from June 25th through August 5th, 2025. The telework pilot for the 2024 through 2025 school year will expire on June 30th, 2025. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the terms of employment for Unit 2 employees.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, item 7.13, Unit 3.
Mr. President, the superintendent recommends approval of the tentative agreement between the Board of Education and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 1693, also known as AFSCME.
Ms. Rawls.
The negotiating teams for the Board of Education and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 1693, have reached a tentative agreement for fiscal year 2026 subject to your approval. In brief, the summary of changes as agreed upon by both parties include, but are not limited to, the following. A step increase will be provided to eligible Unit 3 employees, and a 3% COLA will be given to all Unit 3 employees. The salary scale will be modified to reflect an $18 per hour starting wage. A new provision regarding staff expectations related to the interactions of students, and the 4-day work week will occur from June 25th, 2025 through August 5th, 2025. With the conclusion of the FY26 negotiations, I want to express my sincere appreciation for the collaboration, professionalism, and commitment demonstrated throughout the process. I would especially like to acknowledge Delania Akindoyo, AFSCME President, and the entire negotiating team for their steadfast leadership and dedication to representing all Unit 3 employees. Their thoughtful engagement was instrumental in reaching an agreement that reflects our shared commitment to the success and well-being of AACPS students, staff, and the broader community. On June 14, 2025, AFSCME ratified this agreement, and I respectfully request your approval and ratification of the noted summary of changes.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move to ratify the agreement between ACPS and AFSCME.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.14, Unit 4.
The superintendent recommends approval of the term of employment for Unit 4 employees for FY 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Rawls?
Negotiating teams for the Board of Education and the Secretaries Association of Anne Arundel County have not reached an agreement for fiscal year 2026. For this reason, I respectfully request the following terms of employment be established for Unit 4 employees. These terms will continue in effect until a successor negotiated agreement is approved and ratified. No step or COLA cost of living increases for Unit 4 employees, and the 4-day work week will occur from June 25th, 2025 through August 5th, 2025. Thank you.
Move to approve terms of employment for Unit 4 employees.
And we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.15, Unit 5. Dr. Bedell?
Is it, it's combined, right? That's what I thought. Okay. The superintendent recommends approval of the terms of employment for Unit 5 and Unit 6 employees for FY 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Rawls?
Terms of employment have been established for AACPS non-represented Unit 5 and Unit 6 employees for FY 2026. The following is a summary of recommended changes. Provide a step equivalent to all Unit 5 and Unit 6 employees. Provide a 3% cost of living adjustment to all Unit 5 and Unit 6 employees. The 4-day work week will occur from June 25th, 2025 through August 5th, 2025. I respectfully request your approval of the terms of employment for FY 2026.
Okay, I think we have a motion and a second.
Move to approve the terms of employment for Unit 5 and Unit 6 employees.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Howe?
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland,
Aye.
Ms. Hamdawi,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin,
Aye.
Ms. McDermott,
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
Hey, hey, yeah, we should have brought Ms. Rawls. Before you leave, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you and congratulate you for an outstanding job advocating for this board for our students. We thank you so much. Anyone else? Thank you so much. Ms. Dent. You want her to stay?
I want her to stay. But she's ready to go. She's ready. Before I can even get her out, she's already running.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were finished. Thank you.
No, I really, really want to thank not only that, I think that I can say since 2021 for sure that this is the first time that I was not
cringing all the way to June 18th or 19th with you getting the negotiated agreements negotiated. And so this has been a stressful going into July cycle for me every year. And I'm excited that this year it is not the case. And so I know that it takes a lot, and TAC does a lot of work to make sure that you all could get to an agreement. So just if nothing else happened and you got the agreement with TAC done, I just want to say kudos to you and your team. And kudos to Christina Corona for, I love you, Christina. Kudos to Christina Corona for all the work that she's done to just be a good partner and a good listener to the people that she represents. So thank you both.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to item 8.01. It's award of contracts review items. Any concerns? Everybody's okay. All right, so we'll move on to our item 9, our public comments on non-agenda items. We do have several folks that will be testifying this evening. So this is one of the opportunities that the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent for follow-up by his staff. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific student or employee matters or to comment on matters that do not relate to public education in Anne Arundel County. I remind everyone that any inappropriate personnel remarks or other behavior that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer sessions with speakers. For the record, we ask that you please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. I ask that speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the tone. If you continue after your time has expired, the microphone may be turned off. It could also be turned off if a speaker addresses specific student or employee matters or are commenting on matters not related to public education in Anne Arundel County. So our first speaker on non-agenda items this evening is Abby Ellicott. You may sit, you may use the podium, it's your call.
Thank you.
Pull the mic closer towards you.
How's that?
That's great. And
All
thank
right.
you for being patient and waiting.
My name is Abby Ellicott. I represent the Coalition for LGBTQ+ students. Happy Pride Month. I'm here because Pride is not just a celebration. It's also a reminder of the ongoing fight for the dignity, safety, and justice for LGBTQ youth in our schools. I want to thank all of you for everything you've done to support these students in our educational system. We deeply appreciate your steadfast support. However, we still have more work to do. LGBTQIA youth feel unsafe and unwelcome in some of our schools. We need more accessible gender-neutral facilities. We need more support for GSA clubs. LGBTQIA youth, and especially transgender youth, are under severe attack. The anti-LGBTQIA movement is the strongest it's been in decades, and we've seen how quickly life-saving supports can be dismantled, such as the recent action by Calvert County Board of Ed to ban pride symbols. It's estimated that 41% of transgender people attempt suicide, 41%. This rate drops by half when they have family support, and it drops even more when they have community support, which includes, of course, their school community, AACPS. Let's do whatever we can to protect these students and ensure they don't become another statistic. We're asking you all to stand firm in your commitment to supporting these youth, resist pressure, including pressure from the presidential administration, to dismantle programs and policies that keep them safe and help them succeed. Do not be influenced by fear-mongering statements about trans youth that are propagated by extremist groups. Thank you for supporting some of our most vulnerable youth.
Thank you. Our second speaker is Michelle Fidel.
Oh, this is like giving me deja vu being up here. Does this work? Okay. Good evening, President Silkworth, Vice President Dent, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. My name is Michelle Fidel, and I'm a rising senior at Chesapeake High School. I'm speaking today as a student about the AACPS policy on class rank. In the grading policy, Section C, Part 8, it states that AACPS may not calculate class rank for students. I'm asking for a simple change, the removal of the word not, so class rank can be calculated and made available to those who want it. Students should be able to access their rank and decide whether to include it on their transcript or resume. This isn't about pressure, it's about having a choice. I understand the original intent of removing class rank, to reduce stress and create fairness. But isn't a little academic competition healthy when it encourages us to push for our best selves? We're in a school to grow. And for some of us, seeing our class ranks helps drive that growth. Class rank can also help with college admission and scholarships. If a student is first in their class, that is a major accomplishment. So why should we take away that ability to share it? Making class rank optional doesn't hurt anyone. It just gives another tool to highlight our success if we choose to. So I respectfully ask for this policy to be reconsidered, not to add stress, but to give us more opportunity to control our future. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your summer.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. It's a great way to end, my dear. So we've kind of come to the end of the meeting. Before I ask for a motion, I'd like to remind everyone that our policy committee will be meeting, I believe it's Tuesday, June 24th, at 3 p.m. meeting. And the next meeting of this board will be Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, a 12 p.m. meeting here in the boardroom. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Hafsa.